At what point, I don't know if this would have happened already at the point where as we're recapping here, what point did the studio burn down? Because we didn't address
That's
that.
right. I forgot. That's before Jeff Lowe came along. You're
Right
absolutely
before Jeff Lowe, right?
yes. John Reinke, and I wanted to bring that up. That's an excellent point. John Reinke, not John Reinke, Rick Kirkham
Rick Kirkham, yeah.
used to run Joe's studio. They blasted out on the internet where he was constantly ripping on Carol Baskin. And somebody came along, and you see a security camera that looked, quote unquote, like John Reinke, and burned the studio because the studio was part of the zoo, burned the studio to the ground. And he had a bunch of alligators in pools in the studio, and they basically cooked alive. And Joe turned on Rick Kirkham, and he said, "You probably did this because Joe wanted to get out of the contract with Rick Kirkham, and Rick Kirkham told him, 'You can't. You signed everything over to me. I own you now.'"
Yeah.
That's what he said. And Joe went to talk to his lawyer, and where that footage comes from, where all this footage comes from,
Yeah,
is
where did that come from?
right. Like, who was the guy with the camera? It wasn't Joe. Someone else was in the office with him. Because you could see Joe separately, and it was just kind of like weird. And his lawyer tells him, so he owns all this footage. It's like, yeah, all right. And the lawyer literally says, "You understand what I'm talking about?" And Joe says, "Yeah, I get you." And that's it. And they put that in the documentary. And I'm like,
No, but the lawyer said something to him like he owns the footage, but if the footage weren't there, there's nothing he can do with it. You know what I'm talking about? Something like that, right?
yeah. Very much an insinuation that, like, if you get rid of it, what's he going to do? And then it burned down, and then Joe turned around and accused Rick that he burned it down. And Rick said he was in negotiation with a network. He didn't say which network. I'm guessing any of them at this point, because they all just want schlock on their TV. And we're right, which would have been worth millions. And he's right, it would have been, because everybody would have been just glued to the TV. Look what Netflix did. And accused him of burning down. And Rick said, like, all his footage was in that studio, like all his data, all his film.
There's no way that Rick would have burned that shit down.
No, Rick did not.
No way.
Joe burnt it down.
Absolutely did.
For the simple fact that all the footage was in the documentary.
Yeah. And Joe's the only person I trust out of that group of misfits to have the ability to know how to burn down that studio as effectively as he did. Because I've no doubt he could have got someone to do it for him. But
right.
I know for a fact any one of those fucking people would have fucked it up and burnt a bit of it. Like, it wouldn't have come down like it did. No. Like, Joe has got enough smarts. He knows.
No, without a doubt, Joe burned down the studio. Because, like I said, in the documentary, all that footage, the footage of the girl getting of Sass getting her arm ripped off, all of that prior footage, and they were like, all the footage burned down. And I'm like, we've just watched 6-7 episodes of the footage. What do you mean it burnt down?
But wasn't the documentary, the documentarian, he was making his footage was separate from the reality show, no?
But it was separate, but the whole thing was the footage that Rick was talking about. In the footage, you're like, did you get all this shit? Did you get all this shit? That was stuff that Rick was doing, because Rick said they were shooting what Joe wanted, and he had his crew shooting while they were shooting what Joe wanted.
Okay.
Yeah, there was some of it, you're right.
So they got the footage that was burnt up and put it in the documentary, very obviously. And it's just kind of like, where did it go? Where did it come from? And I mean, it all ties up at the end, and I'll bring that up when we get to the end of the whole thing. But this place burns down, and Joe's offering $10,000 for information leading to who did this. And they're started up the cable show. Some random guy came along and he built the whole studio again for Joe for like $7,000. And he said it's like $120,000 worth of stuff. And they said, why did you build it for him? He's like, I like animals. It's like, okay. It's not like the money's going into the animal's pocket, but all right, dude, whatever. I mean, you do what you want to do. So from that point, they're trying to insinuate that Carol Baskin burned the studio down. And I'm kind of laughing at this point because I'm like, this woman is so slick. This woman is so smart. There's no fucking way in hell that she would hire or even think of anybody to burn. What's the purpose of burning down your studio? That does nothing for her. Absolutely nothing. There's no motive. There's no reason for it. She has nothing to do with this.
Especially when 90% of the things he's producing out of the studio are what are going to incriminate him in court at a later date.
Right,
That's
right.
what it was. That's right. Because they even brought that up because they said they were going to subpoena basically all these films and all this stuff to show him being violent towards her, and you know, like the lawyer very succinctly put, Don Lewis's lawyer, because Carol threatened Don, but they didn't do anything because they didn't have enough to put a restraining order against her. And the documentarian said, like, she threatened him with a gun. And the lawyer said, it's free speech. We don't punish free speech. We punish after something's been done. That's it. So it was the same thing. It was just kind of like, Joe was like, I can say, you know, I was doing all this stuff, but unless there's video evidence, they can't really nail me for that. And oh, conveniently enough, the fire burnt everything down.
Yeah.
So that, like I said, I had sympathy for Joe, and then that happened, and I was like, okay, you know, he's a shyster, just like this is one giant. Like, where's Dr. Phil, and why wasn't Dr. Phil ever consulted in all of this? It's like, come on, man. It's like somebody's got to talk to these people. Anyway, so from here, Jeff Lowe comes in. He's gonna put in money, and in order to, because the trick was for Joe, why he moved the ownership to John Finley and then he moved the ownership to his mom. Every time he did that, Carol would have to initiate a lawsuit against whoever owns it now. And every time, I guess, to file it, it costs money and you need lawyers again. So he was hoping to basically burn her out of funds by doing this. And like we said, she gets 50 grand a week in donations on Facebook, which is, to me, is insane. It's like, I can't even think, like where's all this money going? You know, it's like she's not paying anybody on in the park. Where's all this money going? You know, just to feed the animals? It's almost bizarre. That beside the point. Jeff Lowe comes along. He's going to invest money. They're having the meeting with the mediator. The mediator says they want the $5 grand a week, and Joe basically says, you're basically telling me to stop making money, and I'm somehow supposed to give you $5,000 a month. And then they say, we want your parents' house for collateral. Jeff Lowe jumps into this conversation. That's the most bullshit thing I've ever heard. The mediator says, who are you? You're not supposed to be on this phone call. Get out. And he says, and I'm paraphrasing here, last time I fucking checked, I'm in a free country, and I'll be wherever the fuck I want. And it becomes like he's got big money. And they even say it. Joe apparently thought that Jeff had so much money that Carol was going to get scared. Joe has no idea that Carol has enough money to buy them all out probably 10 times over.
Yeah.
And Joe signs over his park to Jeff.
It was in that call as well. It was so funny because it made me think it was like such a high school prank call to the Pizza Hut, because it was like the moment Joe Exotic trusted him. He was like,
yes.
The moment I trusted that guy, he picked up the phone. He was like, give me the phone. He was like, hey, and the media was like, who are you? And he was like, it doesn't matter who I am. Tell Howard his we ain't gonna listen to a goddamn word his cunt wife has got to say about this shit.
That's right.
And Joe Exotic's going like.
Right.
and the media is on the other phone like
hang up please. Hang up please.
And they're like, yeah, you
That's
told
right.
me.
Right. And so Jeff is there, everything's going good, or somewhat good, and Joe gets it in his head that he's going to run for president. He gets the dude, Joshua Dial, from the weapons counter in Walmart. That's his campaign manager. They're running campaign for president. We mentioned this in the last episode. They even do a bit on it on John Oliver's Last Week Tonight. Joe's running for it. Apparently, Joe's spending money making T-shirts and everything with money from the zoo, which is a big campaign finance no-no, like a federal offense. Jeff finds out, freaks out, confronts Joe about it, because Jeff apparently is on parole for choking his wife. So
Shouldn't do that.
So right away you're like, okay, this guy's trash, like serious trash. He has a bad limp. This guy's trash. And Joe is intermittently, we get conversations that Joe's having with the documentarian from prison. And he's like, yeah, these guys, like, this guy's bald and he's got a bad leg and he's bald and he thinks he's sexy and that's why he keeps on trying to sleep with young women and this ain't happening. And you're just like, what's going on here? Anyway, so you find out and they have the court case from Jeff. And the judge basically tells him he has to stay out of trouble for, I think he's on probation for a year, I think they said. And if he violates it in any way, he's going to have to serve 179, so a day short of 6 months for assault, for choking his wife. Jeff starts taking over the zoo. He brings in his guy. What was his guy's name? Like Adam something?
See if I can find him.
I forget. But it's Alan Glover. Alan Glover is his name.
Yep.
And he's a dude who spent a lot of time in jail. And apparently Jeff kind of scooped him up somewhere along the way and kept on giving him jobs, kept on giving him, like, looking after the dude. Dude has a teardrop tattoo under his eye, which in prison parlance mean you killed somebody in prison. So you're not, it's like you're not afraid to, like, snuff somebody.
Like, I understand the idea behind that. It's easy being someone outside of prison saying, like, that's what that means. But surely if that actually was true, we knew it. Like, how did he ever get let out of prison? Surely you go up against a parole board, they're going to be like, why is this guy sitting like this the whole way through the parole meeting? Like, yeah, I agree with that.
I'll tell you why, Sean. Snitches get stitches. Nobody's in prison.
I'm sure, like, the parole board would know. They'd be like, is that for murdering someone in prison? They'd be like, no.
Wait, do they get the teardrop tattoo while they're still in prison? Or is it after they get out?
No, in prison.
Yeah.
Then I'm with Sean on this one. I think it's an urban legend.
Seems stupid.
But, I mean, that's the whole thing. If no one's going to talk in jail, who do you know who killed him? They just have a dead body. Yeah. So, anyway. So, Alan Glover does not like Joe one bit. He doesn't do anything Joe says. Joe's getting pissed off about the whole thing. And Jeff is kind of like, at this point in the documentary, Jeff is kind of the reasonable guy. He's like, oh, well, yeah, I know, whatever, but we're going to clean up this park and make sure it gets back to its good grade, blah, 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 blah. Come to find out that Joe used zoo funds to finance his presidential campaign, which is, like we said, a big no-no. Jeff has a confrontation with Joe, big blow-up, because Jeff is obviously going to be in trouble with the law if he's connected to this. It comes along, what was his name? James Garrettson, who's a strip club owner and also owns animals, exotic animals, for some fucking reason. I don't understand why all these people own all these lemurs and fucking baboons and whatever. It's like, why? What is wrong with you people? Why can't you just have a fucking dog? What's wrong with a dog? Anyway, this guy comes along, and they're talking about, because Joe's always talking about trying to kill Carol Baskin, which pretty much to anybody you can hear from or talk to and see what he's doing. It's like, this is just a blowhard, just talking shit. He obviously would never do this. And they said Jeff pulled up the Google Maps to show where Carol rides her bike along the path. And somebody can just like hang out in the bushes and cap her from the bushes. And supposedly Travis, Joe's husband, says, "Oh, I could do that." And Joe yells at him and says, "No, you couldn't, because then you'd be in jail, stupid. You can't do anything." So supposedly on the way, Joe asks Alan, Jeff's handyman, if he'd do it for $5,000. And Jeff said, Alan said, yeah. And Joe gave him $3,000 up front, which is like, you're going to give somebody $3,000 and expect them to kill somebody? It's like, what are you doing?
That's like, it wouldn't even get you like a Toyota Camry.
No. It's a name. And Jeff the whole time is talking like, "Oh, I don't know what's going on." And then the feds, who did it come to first? Was it Garrettson, the fat strip club owner, or was it Jeff?
No, it was Garrettson.
Garrettson. And the feds come to Garrettson because they can nail him because he bought this lemur for some fucking reason with bogus papers. And you're like, what? Why would you buy a lemur with bogus papers? I just don't understand. Anyway, so he said he's going to turn an informant. And the interesting thing is the documentarian is interviewing all these people in between. He's interviewing Saf. He's interviewing John Finley. Oddly enough, it's not oddly enough. I was going to say he never interviewed Travis, but that's not oddly enough. And that's what I was saying. That's why the footage wasn't the documentarians, because he never interviewed Travis.
Mm.
All of that was Rick Kirkham's footage. So he's interviewing John Finley, and he says, Garrettson turned a federal informant. And John Finley's like standing there. And every time they're interviewing, he never has a shirt on. And I'm like,
yeah, what the fuck was with that?
I don't get it.
There was an article about that online, and apparently he's the thing he's most proud of is his tattoos, and he made it very clear to the documentarians as they were making it. He's very proud of his tattoos, and he's very self-conscious of his teeth, but he's very proud of his tattoos. And apparently, it's a big thing within tattoo culture to be proud of your work. So he saw him being topless was his version of like showing off his artwork in the background. Like that was why. It wasn't like he was just some redneck, because apparently people were asking after this. It was like, who's this guy who's like redneck? And he was like, but I like my tattoos. I'm proud of them. I just wanted to show my tattoos. Yeah, see, there you go.
Look at all my artwork. Look. Exactly. We're so proud of it all. Fair enough. And he says that John Garrison turned federal informant, and you see John Finley go like, stop, and just like, what? So stuff was happening. So that documentary was going on when the shit was hitting the fan, basically.
Mm-hmm. 5 years, apparently. They filmed for 5 years. Netflix.
That's right. That's right. They said that, yes. So John Garrettson goes to Joe and even brings in a Fed posing as a hitman to try to basically entrap him into hiring a hitman to kill Carole King. Which I'm like, how is this even legal? What are you doing here? You know? And Joe doesn't take the bait because Joe's full of shit. As we all know by watching this, that he's just all talk and no show. Travis, Joe's husband, we find out now that John Finley, first of all, John Finley knocked up the girl that worked the front register. And then they interview him again. He says, I dated a girl since I was in kindergarten. I like girls all the time. And it's like, oh, which was a very funny thing, which my wife pointed out. She was like, yeah, when you get to like into middle America, nobody cares. It just, if somebody's giving you something, you kind of give them a piece of ass in return. That's just how things work.
It was like weirdly unhomophobic. Like amongst all the craziness,
Yeah, right?
no homophobia, with the exception of like the dude with the teardrop was the only guy who I got a glimmer of like, I think he's the one guy who doesn't like gay people. Like,
But you know what?
Yeah, nobody cared. How
Nobody
funny
cared.
that like there were these like really bizarre, like rednecky type of people. And at no point, the most you heard anybody really even address that Joe was gay or had two husbands or anything else was the fucking John Oliver thing when they showed that.
yeah,
It's true.
Nobody cared.
Nobody cared. Nobody gave a rat's ass. And I think part of it had to do because they had guns.
Maybe.
hey, I'm as gay as a $3 bill.
He said that. He literally said that. So, at this point, I think the presidential campaign's over. Travis, they were talking about Travis. So John Finley knocked up the girl in the front desk. And Travis apparently slept with every woman in the zoo.
Yeah.
And Joe's kind of finding it out. And Joe even says it to the documentarian at one point. He says, you know, if John Finley left me for another guy, that'd be all right. But the fact that he left me for a woman, that really irks me because I can't compete with that.
Which really worried me when he said that line because I couldn't not think of him doing a Silence of the Lambs sort of situation to try and compete. And I did like that imagery.
It puts the lotion on the skin or it gets the hose. You see, people, this is why this kind of accelerated our process to get to for video. And this is the gem you get right here. Do a little more dance, Sean. Do a little more. There we go. So, anyway. So
John Finley does leave him
yes,
for a woman.
yeah. In fact, and so now at this point, I think the presidential campaign's over. Joe's going to run for governor, and Travis is like a prankster and always is pointing his gun at everybody. And he's in the office with the campaign manager, Josh, and points the gun at Josh, and Josh kind of gets pissed at him. And there is a security camera that Travis is sitting under, so you don't see him at all. But the security camera's on Josh. And Josh says, and he's recalling it, and he says, dude, stop pointing the gun at me. You know I hate that. And supposedly Travis says, dude, it's a Ruger. You know, these things can't fire without a clip in it. Then you hear a bang. And apparently Travis put the gun against his head and blew his head off. And Joe was so distraught that he went and found a husband literally a week after they buried Travis.
Yeah.
Wasn't he married within a week? Did I miss that? Or did I screw that up? Or
I don't know if it was a week, but
I think he was married. I think he went on a date maybe a week after.
he went on a date. Yes.
it was like a month or something. No, it wasn't long.
No. It wasn't long at all. And that was the thing. They showed Travis's mom, who worked for Joe. And he had her like at the wedding, at his new wedding. And she said after that, he never talked to her again.
Well, he invited her to the wedding.
Right?
She showed up, and she thought it was going to be a big wedding. There was no one there. There was no one at the ceremony. It was like your new guy's mom, new guy, Joe, and Travis's mom.
I don't even know
He
if it
took
was
the
new
wedding
guys.
photos, and she said, Travis's mom in the documentary said, he basically said that he just wanted me there so that people would see in the pictures and be like, oh, Travis's mom is okay with it, so I guess I'm okay with it. And then he never spoke to her again.
Yes. And that's why I think it didn't happen very long after Travis was dead. And he made a big show of showing Travis's tribute. They cemented his ATVs on a little like stone mound, and It was crazy. And then supposedly, apparently every year, Joe would do a Thanksgiving dinner for less fortunate people. And he kind of like fell apart outside, and people were saying, he was just putting that on. That wasn't just a thing at all. So, okay, so now he has a new husband.
He was definitely gay, by the way. That's the one thing I would say about the new husband, as much as he found him very quickly, is I think he definitely found an actual gay person this time. I was watching, I was like, that young guy's gay.
Yes.
He found one, finally.
Good job, Joe.
Good job.
Good job, Joe. Very, very exotic of you. And to say, and I mean, of the three, he was easily the most clean-cut, normal one of them.
Yeah.
Right? Because Travis definitely looked like he was a not Travis. John Finley looked like he was a meth head. You know, Travis looked like he was a stoner from California, which is basically what he was. And this guy just looked like he just left college 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.